Welcome to part 17 of Depraved by Brian Smith. If you hear a noise in the background, I have my air fryer on because it's nom nom time. So where we left Abby, Michelle just stabbed her in the stomach and dumped her body out. But before Michelle left Abby on the side of the road in the middle of the woods, she looked at Abby with disgust and just said, "I'm grateful for you. You helped me. But you cut me. You burned me. You hurt me, Abby. You deserve to die. You're a monster. You're just like the rest of them. You were never meant to leave this place." And then Michelle drove away, leaving Abby to bleed out in the middle of the woods. But she miraculously passed out for a little bit. Abby got up, still bleeding from her stomach, and wandered through the woods, stumbling, leaning on trees, and headed straight to Mama Weeks' house. And as she found Mama Weeks' cabin, she went inside looking for her, but she wasn't there. She collapsed on the ground and died in a safe place for her, Mama Weeks' cabin. Unfortunately, the next morning, Mama Weeks came home, and since she is the community seer, she saw the future and she knew this was going to happen. She walked inside, saw Abby's body, sighed, and put down her things, picked the poor girl up, dragged her outside, and since she saw this coming, she had a kincher boy. She paid one of the community boys to dig a grave for her in her backyard. Little under the table money. Dumped Abby's body in this grave, buried her next to where her husband was murdered. Went inside and cried, and that's the last we'll hear of the Abby storyline, I think. So Megan and Helga had Carl at gunpoint after the demise of the undercover officers in the private room. They told him to get them out of there. And as they left the room, Carl, of course, complied. He's like, "Oh God, I can't believe this is happening." Helga shot one of the bodyguards in the middle of the hall, and they were led through the sin den with all of the patrons. No one suspected a darn thing because, soundproofing. And as they exited the sin den, which was a lot easier than they thought it would be, that butch lesbian Val was waiting by her motorcycle in the parking lot and watched them come out. She had her eye on Megan the whole time and just, "Hey, Carl, I will literally double what I offered before and I will buy her from you tonight." "Oh no, that's not going to happen. See, I'm taking them home, for a little private session. You understand. How about a down payment of $2,000? $2,000 down payment, and then I'll pay you back the rest later." "Oh, no, that'll work. We'll talk about this later, alright?" "Alright, so, later. Goodbye. Bye." So they loaded up the car. Carl drove them out of the sin den, and Megan just was bewildered, 24 hours, I can't believe all this has happened in just one day. Pete was kidnapped, I was arrested, I went to go find Pete, I was almost taken advantage of in this jail cell, sold to the sin den, performed, killed a couple people, and now I'm like, it's not even midnight yet. All this has happened in one day. And, Megan, thinking all this, was like, wait, Carl is the one that helped kidnap Pete. Carl, that man earlier that you kidnapped in the van, where is he? Where is my boyfriend Pete? Helga held the gun up to him. He's like, "Yeah, where is he? Detour, take us to him." And Carl's like, "Well, he's at my house. I can take you there real quick and we'll leave." So they arrived at the Prestons' home. Carl led them to the kennels with all of the dogs barking and howling like crazy. And they arrived at the cage that Justine and Pete were kept in, and with the dead Preston boy inside. Carl wept and ran to his brother, but Helga, boom, shot Carl dead right there on top of his own brother. Megan's like, "Oh my gosh, Pete, he's not here. He was supposed to be here. Where is he?" So they went inside the Preston home to look for Justine and Pete. Well, they didn't know Justine was there yet. And as they walked inside the house, they saw the shredded remains of, Gil and the chainsaw and the castration, and boom, a scalped Mama Preston on the ground with 2 empty plates and noticeable strips of meat cut from Mama Preston. So they drew their own conclusions of like, oh my gosh, what happened here? Somebody ate the bodies. And this is where, you know, I said before, like, I feel like this story is now being rushed to completion because all of this happened narratively within like 20 minutes. And this book was 11 hours long. All of a sudden, as they're taking a gander at all these dead bodies, Helga was stabbed from behind by Val, the, you know, butch lesbian who wanted Megan. Val didn't even blink an eye at the gory casualties that laid before them. Blood splattered the walls, the smell of cooked flesh and death. She didn't even, like, care. She just grabbed Megan and she's like, "You're mine now, you can't escape me." And, like, tried to kidnap Megan and drug her out to the motorcycle that was parked out front. And then, like, unnecessarily, as they get to the motorcycle, Helga stood back up and, you know, shot Val dead, and boom, that character is now gone, and then Helga died at the threshold of the door after saving Megan. And this whole scene is concluded by Megan looking up at the sky as 6 Black Hawk military helicopters, like, whooshed into the town's frame. So Jessica's father kept his promise to get stuff done. And then the story just gets more ridiculous. So Garner now stood over an unconscious Hoke's body. Hoke is now clothed, cleaned up, and they're in an abandoned cabin near Gladys's place. They were surrounded by deformed kinshers at the threshold of this cabin, and Garner then used his demon power and magic to darken the room and summon his black demon tentacle energy tendril things to rip them limb from limb. Limbs, organ, teeth, blood, heads, men, women, children were slaughtered across this little community. Garner just walked around slaughtering every single Kincher that breathed in the Kincher clan. He literally wiped out generations of deformed cannibals in one go. And just this splatter punky gore of Garner ripped fetuses from pregnant women, eating the fetuses, and crushed the women's head under his tendrils. He ate diseased organs, killing every single Kincher, and then he ended his spree with killing big old Gladys. He needed all of the quote-unquote magic and blood to use it for the transference spell. So then he went back to the clean and clothed Hoke, who was still unconscious, and began his chant of transference into his new vessel. And then suddenly Garner became Hoke with his demon magic. So now Garner is his vessel.